Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Nur Nadia Afifah binti Rosli from Tslb3203 and for this task, I chose the short stories Maria and the Melody and the Cure to compare, contrast and evaluate the multicultural elements in both short stories. So let's move on to the multicultural elements, Maria, the Melody and the Cure, and the first multicultural element is family relationship. In the short story Maria, we can see the family relationship element, which is a wife love towards her husband. In this short story, Chi Yam portrayed a character of a wife who is willing to sacrifice for her husband. She feels guilty about not being able to bear a child for her husband, and thus um, allowed Pak Imam to marry Maria. Um, she is also a very good listener to her husband because when she sees that Pak Imam is feeling sad and seems like something is bothering him, she asks him to tell her about what is bothering him. Um, I think that Chi Yam uh, is a very good wife, and it is obvious that she loves her husband very much because she can bear the pain that most women cannot, which is to accept polygamy. Which where she has to share her husband with another woman, and even though she cries and refuses at first, she still reconsidered the request from Pak Imam, and she considered her husband's feelings um, and finally accept the request. I think that Chi Yam is the image of a perfect wife and a perfect housewife because every day she will wait for Pa Imam to come home and cook for him and also clean the house even though the house is already completely clean. Um, it saddens me a lot because the villagers keep on talking about Chi Yam who cannot get pregnant even though she is already a perfect wife because that is not something that she asked for. Okay, moving on. For the next short story is The Melody and the Cure. And the family relationship element in this short story is a father's strictness. In the short story, we can see that Mr. Sai is a very strict father toward his sons. It can be seen when he said, "Don't be ridiculous," and is it clear to his son when he asked his sons to change their name um, to Hanyu Pinyin, which sounds more Mandarin because he doesn't want them to have Western names. I think that the tone that is used in the line when he said "Don't be ridiculous" is very strict, and he definitely um, won't accept a no for as an answer. And he shows no room for argument when he said that. So I think that it is clear how stubborn and strict Mr. Sai is. Okay. The next multicultural elements is social issues. And for Maria, we can see the bad side um, of of the society uh, where gossips among women in the village is happening very widely, and it is like their daily activity. I think that Cik Gunap is the one that shows the most obvious hatred towards Maria, as she would bring stories about Maria around the village. She even went to Cik Yam's house to gossip about Maria and even accuse her for putting something into her nasi belauk to attract customers. And she will even uh, tell Cik Yam about Pak Imam who went to Maria food stall when it is obvious that the fact will definitely create an argument between the husband and wife. I think that it is completely unnecessary for Cik Gunap and her gang to to talk about other people and bring story and even accuse without proof. And I think that it is very surprising that some people in the village is willing to go as far as to accuse someone um, just because they don't like that person, and they tell the fake stories to Cik Yam just to make Cik Yam feel the same hatred they have towards Maria. And I think that Cik Gunap portrayed the bad side of a society because she is filled with negativity thoughts about someone. Okay, for the melody and the cure, for this short story, the social issues portrayed is about society's bad impression on politics. I think the society in the short story has a bad impression on politics because um, it is mentioned when the staff in Mr. Sai's school who works together with him is not very fond of Mr. Sai's behavior when he will often miss meetings, hosting the friendly Meet Your Member of Parliament sessions, supervising the school's community consciousness activities, and more. Um, in my opinion, they think that Mr. Sai is trying to suck up to the politicians and the higher ups to be the ideal civil servants of the year. It is well known that a government plays an important role in a country and holds a powerful position in a country. So I think that the Mr. Sai's colleagues thinks or have a very bad impression on politics because they think that someone who follows each of the government's policy and follow the campaigns like Mr. Sai definitely um, has um, has uh, what do we call they Mr. Sai definitely is trying to achieve something from the government. So I think that his colleagues um, is not very fond of politics, and they think that everyone who follows 100% of the politics policy um, is trying to suck up to the politicians and the government. That's what I think. And for the next multicultural element is value system. Okay, for Maria, um, the value system in Maria is one strong principle. This value um, is portrayed by the character Chi Yam when she shows that she does not easily give in to the gossips brought by Cik Gunap and other women in the village. This value comes up when Cik Yam refused to believe Cik Gunap's accusation towards Maria when she said that Maria put something in her nasi belauk just to attract customers. And even though um, her own husband went to Maria food stall, she still cannot bring herself to accuse Maria or put hatred in her or talk badly about her. Instead, she told Cik Gunap that it is not good to accuse someone without a proof, and she did that without hesitation. And I think that Chi Yam is very kind, and she has a very strong heart and principle because she doesn't involve herself um, in useless gossips and jumps to a conclusion, and she stands with the with her belief that it is a sin to accuse someone without proof, and she never once talked badly about anyone in the village, and she never hate anyone in the village. Instead she focused on her own household and how to take care of her own husband, unlike other women villagers. For the short story, The Melody and the Cure, the value system that is portrayed is patriotism. Um, Mr. Sai portrayed a citizen with a strong patriotism. He shows his love for his country in various ways, even when it hurts him. For example, when he holds his pain after being stung by a bee, just to make sure that he doesn't move while singing the national anthem. I think that it is very remarkable that he is willing to go that far just to show his respect for his country. And not many people are able to stand the pain of being stung by a bee. He also appreciates his mother tongue, which is Mandarin. When he stands with the campaign, speak Mandarin and avoid dialect. He even tries to change his son's Western name to the one that is in Mandarin. It shows how strongly he loved his country, language, and culture. So his actions shows how patriotic he is, and that is a value that can be found in this short story. So for the next multicultural element is belief system. Okay, for Maria, the belief system that is portrayed in this short story is the belief in Pak Imam's authority. In this short story, the villagers really respect Pak Imam as he's like the symbol of religious belief in the village. The women in the village even make sure that they cover up their head um, properly to protect Pak Imam's image, because if they um like don't cover their head, they will bring a bad impression about the Pak Imam, as Pak Imam holds a very high position um as a religious person. I think that it is understandable that they respect Pak Imam that much, because Pak Imam studied Islam in depth, and people rely on him a lot. Most of the villagers might not be widely exposed to study further, which may be the reason they look up to Pak Imam. Okay, so it shows how much they respect Pak Imam and believe that they have to control um, their image um, according to the Islam religion to protect Pak Imam's authority. Okay, for the melody and the cure, the belief system in this short story is about the belief in one's vision. For this element, Mr. Sai has a strong faith in doing beyond what was expected, and he's very proud of himself that even though he is different from most people that follow the requirements, only to be executed from the fines that come with no compliance. This, despite being different and is viewed negatively by his colleagues, he still holds on to his belief. He still follow each of the government policies, and he shows his respect to his country. He follows the rules and never litter, never spit on the ground, and he never curse. Uh, and it shows that he's different from other people, because nobody is as perfect as that, because of course people make mistakes, but even though he's viewed as different from other people, he still stand with his vision, that he love his country, he respect his country, and he will follow all of the government's principle and believe in his in his decision. So this is the belief system in the melody and the cure, which is the belief in one's vision. Okay, for the next multicultural element is gender issues. So in Maria, it is obvious that there is a gap between men and women in this short story. Um, in this short story, women are shown to be owned by their husband as they have to obey their husband's command. Meanwhile, men are shown to be selfish and ignorant. I think that most of us agree that it is very frustrating and infuriating when men put all the blame on women when an issue arises. In this short story, men tend to blame their wife when they fail to have a child, and refuse to consider that maybe the problem comes from the men. As far this can be shown when Pa Imam think that as far as he was concerned, bearing children was a woman's job, and if she didn't, there was something wrong with her. Fertility has nothing to do with men. I think that this kind of thought is very old school and selfish. I think that Pak Imam was being too proud of himself about his position as a husband and as a man. He refuses to let down a little bit of his ego and consider that the problem maybe came from him. Um, Also, women have to be very good at doing house chores in order to keep their husband home. In my opinion, men should realize, the men in the short story should realize that house chores are also part of their responsibilities, and they should be more considerate towards their wife. And for me, it is definitely wrong to go to a food stall just because the seller caught their eyes because she is very pretty, just like Maria, and just like how the men in the village do. And they should appreciate their wife who are waiting at home with the food they cook just to let their husbands have a good meal. So I think that in this short story, it is very obvious that woman stands a little lower than men. That shows that there is a gap between men and women. And I think that it is unfair because about Maria who about Chiyam who cannot get pregnant. I think that it saddens me a lot because um this problem about fertility might come from men, and Pak Imam was being too selfish when he says that he has nothing to do with the problem. So okay, that's all for Maria. And for the melody and the cure, there is no gender issue portrayed because um all along the story, it is not mentioned anything about women discrimination. There is rarely mention about women, and so there is no gender issues portrayed. Okay, so this is the references, and that's all from me. Thank you so much.